Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today we're going to talk about teens. And this, you might be a teenager listening to this, or you probably are maybe a parent of a teenager, or you have a teen in your life that you really care about. This is near and dear to my heart because I was a high school Sunday school teacher. I was a high school cheerleading coach, and I mentored a girl, my little sister in Big Brothers Big Sisters, who is now 25, but I met her when she was just 12 years old. And so I have a special place in my heart for teens struggling through relationships because they can really impact you. They do impact you in a major way. And because it's your first experience with love and rejection and understanding your feelings about boys. And when this is all so new and so exciting, then you're also comparing yourself to the other girls and what's going on in their relationships. A friend of mine reached out to me and asked me specifically to do this episode. And it's something that I used to do a lot more of, but just kind of got away from it. So I would love to hear your feedback. If you are helping a teenager, or you are in high school and you are trying to figure out what's going on with guys, and especially with social media, because that adds a dynamic of dating that if you are a parent of a teen, you probably didn't have to go through that. You didn't have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all of that going on while you were having a crush on your boy. And how that feels out of the gate when you're first falling for a guy and watching him interact with other girls on social media and what's going on and what does this mean and what does that mean. So, of course, it's, this is in generalities, right? But I will always come back to, and I want you to use the Gumball Love concept as your guide. Because if you download the workbook that's available right now, I worked my butt off to get this workbook done, but it defines what Gumball Love is and also the different flavors of attention that I could say guys are seeking, but it's people. There are two types of people: attention-seeking people and connection-seeking people. People that are addicted to the sugar high of attention tend to be more surfacey, and they are after that validation because the gumball itself is the soothing, it's soothing, it's comforting, it makes you feel better. So if a guy is more sexual, he is soothed by your sexual attraction toward him. But sometimes I'm just going to kind of whip through the flavors really quick. So if I look at the red gumball, which is the player or the pickup artist, he wants the red gumball, which we call arouse me. So everything is about arousing him. Everything comes back to sex. And that can make you feel very sexy. So if you are, I'm going to approach this like if you have a teenager, you're a mom and you're looking at, if you are a teenager, you can think of it. You can think of your mom looking at you this way as well. You're a big sister. That if a guy is making you feel sexy, but it is always kind of coming back to either having sex or your body. Because look, when guys are young, their hormones are surging at their all-time high. So sex becomes a very big fixation. However, there are still good guys in high school. And one of my cousins, she married her high school sweetheart. A lot of people marry their high school sweetheart. So let's not underestimate high school relationships you can find your husband in high school, which sounds crazy, but it does happen quite a lot because you really if you have a good guy in front of you, you have a solid foundation. If you grew up together, you started maybe in kindergarten, first grade, if you have that dynamic, then it adds to your bond. So if you're in the same place, you have the same teachers, you have the same friends, that's a tremendous foundation. And so if you have that bond, it could be something that lasts forever. It is possible. It happens. And it's not some kind of anomaly. So how do you know when it's that, or is he just into you for the sex, or he's just now feeling that? So if you have a girl that's, in junior high, and really this is like, you're watching, whether you are the person or you're watching your daughter or your little sister be pursued, there's that vantage point you have where you can see, he's not appreciating her for who she is. He just wants her for sex. So how do we know that that's going on? We know what's going on if you don't take anything away from this episode, is that the gumball is all about them and them getting what they want. And so when I was talking to girls in high school, I would say this. So if you're in high school and you're excited about a guy, I'm just going to ask you this. What does he know about you? If I were to ask him questions right now, if I were to call him on the phone and let's say your name is Tracy, and I would say, what do you know about Tracy? Tell me about Tracy. What would he actually know about you? Now, I remember asking my little sister this, and she just stared at me like, I don't know if she was maybe a freshman in high school, and she just thought this guy was so dreamy. And I was like, does he, and he was at a different school though. I was like, how did you meet this guy? Well, we met on Facebook. So I was like, oh man, that's something that I wouldn't have experienced. So now you could be meeting a guy that goes to a different school and you don't really know him very well, but now you're texting. Guess what? Whether you're a teenager or you're 45, we are all in this weird texting dynamic where we think we know somebody, but we're not really meeting him in person. So I asked her, have you met him in person? No. Have you heard the sound of his voice? No. I was like, does he know that you're a cheerleader? And she was like, no. What does he know about you? And she's like, I go, let me guess. Is this like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're schmoopy. You're schmoopy, schmoopy. It's a schmoopy relationship where it's lots of compliments and it's flirty, but there's no actual, I'm getting to know who you really are, what you like to do, who your parents are, your siblings, what classes you're in, who your teachers are, what's going on. Is there an ability, even at a high school level, high school boys, we can't let them off the hook just because we're in high school, and yes, their hormones are raging, but if they look, one thing I know being a girl in her 40s, that they'll be able to control it as a young, if they're a good guy, they're a good guy, and they are able to control their physical desires when they respect a woman because it's how they've been raised. So don't feel like, oh, well, he's young and I'm just going to forgive this guy acting like a player. No, if he's acting like a player, he'll more than likely be a player into his 20s and 30s. This behavior is going to continue. So there are good guys, and you don't have to date the dork or the nerd or the guy you're not attracted to. You know, like, there's this idea that the nerdy guy is somehow a good guy and the jock is the bad guy. And so, but we really want to date the jock, but we have it in our mind. Like, all those stereotypes are wrong. Sometimes that nerdy guy is the total jerk and the jock could be the nice guy. There are really top level athletes that are that way because they're super disciplined and they were raised well and they get up in the morning and they practice and they're committed and they are great athletes for their coaches. I mean, as a former coach, I could tell you the kids that were quality kids and they showed up and they did what they were supposed to do. And in high school, they had good relationships and they had girlfriends, boyfriends, etc. So this can happen. And so, but when it becomes, and I just want you to keep this in mind, when it becomes about a transaction, if he's putting in a quarter to get a gumball and you feel like, okay, he's telling me I'm cute, send a pic, I send a pic, but then we never talk about anything deep. We never really get to know each other. Then you're in a gumball love relationship where it's always based on the next transaction. It's never based on an investment in each other. And that is the biggest difference between a healthy relationship that's going somewhere and a relationship that's based on transactions. So every type of flavor of gumball is there at any age. So you can have a drama king gumball guy, which is the orange, where he wants to pick fights. So he's either about sex or he's about fights. And by the way, I will continue to say this, all of these gumball flavors, I want you to think of them, there's 8, and every gumball guy the percentage of flavor of attention he craves is going to be, it's different with each guy, but he's never going to just want one kind of gumball. It'll be, well, he's the guy that is always all about sex, but I notice we're fighting all the time. And so we interpret the drama and the fighting as passion. Well, we're just very passionate and we do bump heads a lot. But then that passion turns into all this sexual energy that you mistake for building real connection. And so ask yourself, okay, download the workbook and look at the signs. And I'm creating a quiz. This quiz is being built as we speak. And I do have a beta version available. So if you book a one-on-one session with me, I'm happy to do one with you and your daughter. Or if you're in high school, I will be happy to work with you as well. And early access to this quiz that will help you to understand what it is he's looking for. Is he into me or is he into getting aroused? Is he into me or is he into the drama of fighting? Because fighting intensifies the attention. So a guy that picks fights is probably your more extreme gumball guy. Or if you feel like he's texting you and this is a way you can talk to a teenager that's texting a guy that she's just met. And really, you guys, this applies to everyone. But if I had a daughter and I was watching her text a guy, I would ask her, does he seem bored? Do you feel like he's bored and you're responsible for entertaining him? And sometimes you get those one-word answers, and sometimes he's really responsive. But you feel like you don't know what kind of guy you're getting. That's a transactional relationship. He puts in a quarter, you give him a gumball. And then you feel like you have to offer a gumball to get his attention again if he's not paying attention to you. And you get this feeling like just me isn't enough. So if you're in the middle of those interactions and you're starting to feel like, I feel like I have to perform in some way to get him to be into me, then you know, okay, that's the performance is part of the transaction. Oh, if I perform, then he pays attention to me. Or when he wants me to pay attention to him, he pings me with a quarter. And then what is it that I give him that keeps him interested? How do you entertain him? What fights does he pick all the time? What does he want from you sexually? What is that pattern? And this is how we can start to predict, as my therapist said, when you see patterns of attention seeking start to repeat, and then you're able to predict the pattern, that's when you know you have the wrong guy. Because you'll start to see, oh, every time I do this, he does this. Every time he does this, I do that. You'll start to see him come to you and want the same type of attention, or he'll pick the same fight, or he'll have certain methods that he uses consistently. And that's how you know, okay, this is the pattern this guy is in. And it does a wonderful thing. It shows you that this isn't you. You can't change this part of him. So if I can put it bluntly, I can't build a relationship with this guy because the relationship is just giving him the flavor of gumball he wants. So if I'm talking to someone who really has no relationship experience outside of, and look, if you're in high school and you're like, okay, Melissa, I haven't had very many relationships or I haven't really had any romantic relationship. So what do I do? How do I interpret this concept? I would tell you to think about your girlfriends and ask yourself, okay, out of your girlfriends, because women can be gumball girls, who is actually your friend? Who can you just show up in a messy bun and, sweats and talk about whatever's going on, and you're not feeling like you have to perform in some way, that you can just relax. My two friends like this were my friend Leslie and my friend Nikki. And we were always at each other's houses every Friday or Saturday night and talking about anything and everything, but they were there for me. They cared about me. And then there were girls that I kind of felt like I had to be wearing the right outfit for, or I had to have my hair done a certain way, or I had to be in a certain kind of club, or I had to be friends with certain people. And those are the women that are the girls that you are in a transactional relationship. If you have to change yourself to be something you're not in order to fit in with them, then more than likely you're offering them some type of gumball in order to get their approval. So you're entertaining them, you are chasing them just to be in their group, to try to be in that popular group. There's a chase there. And the queen bees of those groups know that. And so they have to keep themselves at a distance to keep you pursuing. So if you're pursuing the popular crowd, more than likely you got a gumball girl at the head of that crowd that enjoys that chase. Sometimes it's not the case, but a lot of times it is. And so if you're wondering, okay, how do I evaluate guys? What does that have to do with guys? The queen bee. I'm trying to help you understand that this gumball transaction, the sugar high that attention addicts want, is the sign that it's not a relationship that is solid. It's not a relationship that is reciprocal. You are only going to get something from them if you give them something. They approach it to get something out of you. And that could be a compliment. That could be, sometimes guys just want girls texting them because they're showing off to other guys. So the show off gumball guy is the one that wants to be idolized. So let's say there's the jock. And if you're listening to this and you are not in high school, you're not a teenager, this is often where the gumball guy is born, he is the popular jock. So let's make the jock now he is a gumball guy for the sake of this conversation. And he becomes like the celebrity. And as this celebrity, say he's the quarterback or he's the track star, he's the wrestling state champion, and whatever accolades he has, whatever is cool in your school, he's got that. And so he becomes the guy that everyone idolizes. And when you start getting that kind of attention, it can become addicted. It's just like someone who becomes famous, which a lot of famous people also become idolize me gumball people, where they start to depend on everyone around them thinking they're so cool and so amazing. So they become the storytellers. They become the musician. They become the politician. They become those people that are the center of attention. And so they are often really good looking. They have fun personalities, and everybody wants to be around them. So when you are the girlfriend of the show off, the idolize me guy, you can tend to feel like you are competing to be in the spotlight with him. Not that you want the spotlight, but you want to be a part of his life. And sometimes it feels like you're competing with all these other people just to be around him. And there's an excitement about being around him. And it feels like, ooh, I want to be that guy's girlfriend because he's so cool and everybody likes him. And then you can get caught up in it, right? And so when we're caught up in these things, we're not focused on, are we compatible? Does this guy like me? Do I like him? Are we connecting? Is this somebody that can spend time around my family? Because that's one thing I notice about high school relationships. That's the same as adult relationships, that your boyfriend should be able to hang out with your parents and or your siblings or your friends and not have a need to be the center of attention, but he should be able to communicate with them and hang out and get along and build friendships along with the relationship with you. So when it's all about him, so if you got a guy that you're only texting, it's all about him. He's not making time for you in person, then you don't have somebody that's investing in you. And if you have a teenager, you are in high school, and let me just speak to the girls that are in high school. This is where we can start a pattern of waiting for a guy to decide we're good enough, waiting for him to send the message that says, oh my gosh, he's so into me. This is the moment where we can lower our standard, because if we're waiting around and he's not getting back to you for days or weeks, or you are texting him, but you're seeing him with other girls on social media, you're seeing him interact and like other posts, then what we have is a bachelor, right? And I need to think of a better name, because this is also the chase me gumball, that guys like to have all these women, and my boyfriend calls it the rotation, where you're one of the girls in the rotation and you're just part of the women that are in his old school term Rolodex. You're in his contact list. You're one of the girls texting, and you want to be the only girl texting him, but he gives you that feeling like you've got to work for that position. And so if we get caught up in the trap of trying to work to get into that position, that's when we turn our relationship into, I'm only as good as a transaction. I have to work for love, and what I'm doing isn't good enough. So now I have to watch for his cues to be what he wants me to be so that he'll fall for me. And it's really hard when you have all the feelings, when you have the crush, when you look at him and, oh, he's so cute. And it's just like you can't help it. You feel the feelings. But if I can teach you at an early age to feel those feelings and then ask yourself, okay, put it up against those flavors. Am I competing for other women? Is he bored? Is he a feel sorry for me kind of guy where I give him a lot of pity? Is he making me chase him? Is he skeptical about me where he keeps texting me but making me feel like I've got to prove myself? That's the convince me gumball. So is he trying to get you to convince him, chase him, idolize him, pity him, compete for him where there's other girls? Is he making you entertain him? I call that the fussy baby gumball guy. Is he picking fights? Is he critical? Is he mean? Does he make fun of you in front of other people? This is the guy that likes the girl, but he doesn't know how to talk to her. Let me tell you something. If you're in high school, I remember some guys that were mean. They said horrible things, like in the hallway, or they'd make a comment about my body. Not a lot, but just a handful. Do you know that those were the guys that were adding me on Facebook years later? Hey, what's going on? And they were trying to have, because they were adult men, yet it proved, I was like, wow, it really is true. The guys are mean to girls that they like. However, I remember people saying that to me. Oh, he's mean to you because he likes you. Yeah, well, that's not good. It's not good. That's not a healthy guy. If he's mean to you because he likes you, it means he's too insecure to just be respectful, and he hasn't been raised to respect women. and he hasn't had healthy relationships. And so if I can help you avoid that by, yeah, he might be mean because he likes you, but even though he likes you, he doesn't know how to treat you. And he will hurt you because a lot of times that guy that's a jerk is the idolize me guy. He wants to look cool in front of his friends, so he'll say something mean to you to get a laugh out of a group of friends. If you've watched the movie Grease, which is a classic, I think everyone has watched that, think about when he saw Sandy at his school and how he treated her differently because he was in front of his friends. When you watch Hollywood movie or any movies, you can see these behaviors and how Hollywood portrays them. And now when my boyfriend and I would watch different movies, we'd be like, oh my God, idolize me. We're rewatching the show Scandal, and Fitz, who plays the president, total gumball guy. Idolize me, chase me, pity me. I mean, he does them all. And Olivia Pope, even though she seems powerful, she's falling for it all the whole time. And when you have this perspective, if I can get this content in your head and you can see those signs and you can see what's actually going on, then it will empower you. And so if you are just starting out, if you're in your first relationships, or you're a mom and you've got a teenager in school, and if you're listening with your mom, this might feel a little bit awkward, but if you are listening with your mom, it means your mom loves you a lot. And she wants you to have the real thing. So I'm going to honor you by saying that if you're having big feelings for somebody and you're in high school, look, it could be the real thing. So I want you to honor yourself and say, okay, if I'm having these feelings, do I feel like I have to give him sex in order for him to accept me? Then it's a transaction. Give me sex or I'll leave. No, that's not somebody that cares about you as a person and respects you. And I know that's tough because it's like, okay, so that means I just have to like let him go because he just wants the transaction. But what does staying with him mean? It means what? Then you just give the gumball because he wants it? And then is sex with you just a gumball? Is it just a quick fix, a sugar high? And then what? He moves on to somebody else in the rotation? You know what I mean? Like, it does suck to say, yeah, I really don't want to just give sex to a guy that has the expectation of completing a transaction. But when you can see that he's just looking to get high instead of be connected, to be, to get to know you, to fall for you deeper. Because if you're having all the feelings, yet he's not really showing up for you, then we live in the hope that each transaction will lead to real connection. And transactions do not lead to connection. Transactions are complete at each one. It's like, okay, he put in the quarter, you gave him a gumball. He just wants another gumball. But when you're with someone who wants a connection, you can't get him with the gumball. This is why when I'm talking to girls and they're putting their boobs out and they're like showing the cleavage, you can't coerce a guy who wants real connection with cleavage. It's not going to be what gets him interested in you. It won't work because, yeah, he might think you have great boobs, but he's not going to be interested in you because of that. The gumball guy that wants the transaction, the guy that's into sex, you show him the cleavage, he's like, there's my customer, there's my person, there's the person that will complete my transaction. So when you think of it in that simple of a term, it's like, okay, so what is this guy? Who is this guy that's kind of putting me down and picking fights with me? Because picking fights is dramatic. That's why I call him the drama king. And he likes the drama because the drama is intense and it's exciting. And he's the center of the attention. So there's so many different flavors and I've gone through all of them in the podcast. But I want you to just break it down. And if you're talking to your daughter or you're in high school, you're having your first relationship. But let me just speak to the moms. If you're a mom and you're trying to have this conversation, Like, if you're a teenager and your mom's like trying to warn you about the guy and you're like, oh, mom, you don't understand. Like, ugh, I don't want to have this conversation with you. Like, you don't understand. You aren't there. And I want to do what I want to do. And ew, I don't want to talk to my mom about this. But if you're the mom and you're like, I don't know what to tell my daughter because, you're worried, oh, she's going to have sex with him and he's going to break her heart or he's going to get her pregnant. He's going to walk away from her. And if we can help them understand the transaction, the quarter and the gumball, and if she can understand those signs, the earlier in her life, the better. To see those behaviors and go, oh, that's a gumball. He wants the gumball. And then she'll start to see that repeat. And when you can see, what does it look like if he doesn't want the gumball? He's just going to talk to you and get to know you. Which, guess what that feels like? It feels like he's not interested because he's not going to try to make out with you immediately. He's not going to try to have sex with you right away. He's actually going to spend time with you and he might end the date without holding your hand or kissing you. And you'll be like, what is happening? And it means he's actually interested in you for real. And he's not just trying to look at your boobs. He's actually interested in you for real. So he's someone who respects his own time. And high school guys can be this sophisticated. The high school kid who is really committed to his sports or his grades, and he's actually studying, and he's actually has respect for himself, and he invests. These are those signs like, okay, he's a good student, he's a good athlete, he respects his teachers. And I'm not saying that you still can't have a gumball guy if all those things are there. You still need to look for, when he gets what he wants, does he lose interest? Is he inconsistent? Is he texting me rapid fire one day and then I don't hear from him for days? So we're looking for consistency. We're looking for someone who isn't rushing to the physical. We're looking for someone who can hang out with your friends and family. Someone who is interested in what you're interested in. Someone who will attend if you're an athlete, or you're a cheerleader, you're on the dance team. They take time to pay attention to those things. And everyone looks at that guy, the girl that's dating that kind of guy. Oh my God, he's so sweet. I want to date a guy like that. Yet we're texting sexy pics to arouse me gumball guy, hoping that arouse me guy turns into relationship guy. And he doesn't. So yes, sometimes we have to walk away from what seems tempting. It's like, oh, but he's cute and he's popular. Yeah, but you're going to feel like crap because he's going to be sending those same messages to other girls. It's never going to be just you. And once we can recognize that early, then we know. The bottom line is, if you know it's a gumball guy, you're not missing out. You're always going to feel like you're not a priority. You're going to feel like he's not really into you. And you're going to feel like you're constantly working for it. And that makes your self-esteem go lower, which eventually will make you choose an even worse guy because your self-esteem is lower. Therefore, your expectations are lower. And then again, you're with somebody that doesn't appreciate you and doesn't even have the capacity to fall in love with you. So high school or not, college or not, wherever you are in your dating experience, just think about these things. And I would love to hear from you. If you're in high school, if you're in college, and this message resonated with you, please let me know. I had a girl reach out to me who listened to this in college, dumped her college boyfriend, started creating logos and web design, started her own business, and now has a flourishing business. And I had heard about her in my circle, and I didn't even know that she had listened to my content. And we met at an event, and she was like, oh my God, I know you. I started listening to your podcast, and I dumped my gumball guy and started my business. And now she's like killing it, has been killing it for years in creating logos for people and website design. She found her creativity because she stopped serving gumball guys and she started to focus on herself, love herself. And so this is what I want for you, because you can spend all of your high school chasing a guy who isn't really in love with you. He might say the words, but he cheats. He might say the word, but he's talking to somebody else. He might say the words, but his Snapchat score is clearly a higher number than it would be if he was just texting you. The signs are there. You know it. But the longer you put up with that, the worse you're going to feel about yourself. And then you move into the less likely category of actually having a really good guy, because we start putting up with behavior that we shouldn't. And if you can stop it in the beginning, it'll save you. It could save you 20 years of bad relationships. Because let me tell you, if you are in high school or college, and for the women that are around my age group, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you know how detrimental some of these relationships are at an early age, because it affects you. High school love is real. It's real heartbreak, and it can be crushing, and it can really affect your grades, what college you get into, what job you get out of high school. I mean, what your score is on your SAT or your ACTs. I mean, it really can have a domino effect, because when we are heartbroken, we're not focused. We feel sad. We feel abandoned. We feel rejected. And how can you function at a high level when you're feeling that way? So in a lot of ways, this is ageless, but I wanted to give you perspective from a high school, even junior high level, junior high, high school, like, for probably 6th, 7th grade is when you start to, and maybe even earlier, 5th, 6th, 7th is kind of when really, I remember feeling like I had a boyfriend in 1st grade. Nothing really happened. You were just, he was your boyfriend, but like no one went on dates. It's like maybe passed notes together to each other or something. But, as you get into junior high, then things become a little bit more real in high school. And then, college, like some people get married in their early 20s. And I've seen really healthy people get married to their high school sweetheart. So I want you to know, like, it's possible for you to find love early in life. But if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I found my true love much later in life, and that was the journey meant for me. So don't put any time limits on it or timelines. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. The right person will be there when the timing is right. And so if you have somebody that asked you to listen to this podcast, and you're like, oh God, I'm dating good for, high school girls dating boys in high school. Hopefully this message resonated with you. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions or if you listened. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from everybody, but specifically on this episode, if you're in high school and you have questions or this resonated, let me know. All right, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for listening. If you love this episode, don't forget to leave a review or comment in my most recent Instagram post. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough. You are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.